Hey YouTube, MaxZ2021 here, coming at you with another Thoughts on Manga video. This time I'm going to be talking about Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle, or if you want to go with the Japanese name, Maou-jou de Oyasumi. Hold on, let me check my liner notes real quick. So, this manga has been published in Weekly Shonen Sunday since May 11th, 2016, at least according to my anime list. And the English release, specifically for Volume 1, came out June 12th, 2018, and it's a bi-monthly release. So, as of this recording, we're up to 4 volumes. And here's the cover for Volume 1. Volume 2. Volume 3, and Volume 4. So, I should mention that I was considering doing this specific video back when this volume came out and I finished reading it, so I can give my initial thoughts on this manga. But I decided to wait until Volume 4 came out in English for a specific reason I'll elaborate on later in the video. So, yeah, I'm just gonna start talking about the plot. I'll talk about the plot. So, the princess of the human kingdom gets kidnapped by the demon lord, and she gets taken to the demon castle, and everybody in the human kingdom's all worried about her, which, I mean, that's pretty usual reaction for a hostage situation. And they're probably thinking, oh, is she getting tortured? Are they being mean to her? Just other stuff like that. And the thing is, the only worry, or I should say, the princess's main concern is trying to sleep. And that's where a lot of the comedy comes into play. Because she's mainly either looking for a new way to sleep better, or trying to do something that'll help her sleep better, or just doing stuff in general. But one thing I noticed when I was skimming through the volumes before recording this video is that at the end of every chapter, it either has her falling asleep or she falls asleep, and then there's a few panels showing something else that's happening during that chapter. Like either other people that were involved with whatever she was doing that chapter, or her waking up and commenting on whatever situation she was getting into. And yeah, I can definitely say that this is one of the few comedy manga. Well, I mean, it's not purely comedy, but it's one of the few comedy manga that I've read over the years that made me laugh at least once a chapter. And I can't really recall any other time where I might have laughed at least once every chapter, aside from maybe when I was reading Cromartie High School. But yeah, I think it's pretty humorous. It's got some nice art too. I wrote down a list of some random things that happen that she does, or stuff that she gets into, or I mean situations she gets into, just to give a general idea of what you could expect if you decide to read this. Let's see, there's one chapter where she gets turned into a cat. There's a chapter where she learns how to play chess, but she misinterprets the explanation of the rules. There's a chapter where she constructs a hot spring. There's a chapter where she tries out hibernation. There's like 1 or 2 chapters where she participates in a sports festival. Though the second time it happens, it's not really a sports festival. Maybe. Last thing I wrote down was there's this one time where she befriends this harpy, but solely for the purposes of using her wings as a comforter. And, yeah, speaking of her coming up with different methods for trying to sleep better, her general way of doing that is by killing or dismembering or just doing stuff to the other residents of the castle and using the parts that she gets from killing them or dismembering them or just doing other stuff in general. She uses those parts to construct stuff for helping her sleep. Or she'll invent things with inanimate objects, and yeah, she pretty much just wants to, I guess you could say she wants to be the best at sleeping. I mean, that's not her actual goal since she's just trying to sleep, but with the way that she goes about trying to do all this stuff, you could definitely say she's very determined to get some good rest. And, I should mention her name. Wait, let me pull it up real quick. So her full name is Aurora Silas Goodrest, and Goodrest is spelled with an E at the end. But the manga mainly refers to her as Silas with one word. I mean, without a space. So, yeah, it's pretty humorous, like I mentioned. Not really sure what else to say. Well, I guess some of the jokes boil down to either her or other demons in the castle misinterpreting things. Like in one chapter, she's trying to get Valentine's Day chocolates, and she figures that if she's nice to the other people in the castle, then they'll give her chocolates because people were nice to her back in the human kingdom, and she always got chocolates every year for Valentine's Day. Excuse me. So she goes around to like the different people or different demons in the castle, and she asks them stuff like, "Hey, do you love me?" Or just trying to pretty much coax them into giving her free candy. And the people that she asks, they like start freaking out because they think she has like ulterior motives or something like that. But yeah, not really sure what else to say. Oh, well, no, there is something I can talk about, like the volume specifically. Now, on the front and the back covers for each volume, they have, like, scenery for the Demon Castle or whatever. And at the end of the volumes, like, by where they got the author note, they, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's a guy, but, the mangaka draws the front cover, but without any of the text on it, and they point out which characters are in the image. So there's a page for just the front cover, and then a page for the back cover, And like I said, both pages point out which characters are on the front and back covers, so that's pretty neat. And then another interesting thing, or I think it's interesting, but another thing that they do in between the chapters, at least for the volumes, I don't know about the online scans since I haven't read any of those yet, but in between the chapters, at least after, from chapter 2 and on, there's usually a drawing of Princess Silas in, like, a different job class, because she's changing her job class. Let's see, where's a good one? And then underneath it, it'll have either her or, I think, a narrator or something commenting on the job class. Like, I think it's in volume 3, there's one where her job class changes to a plumber, and she says, "Why does this job make me jump higher or better or whatever?" And it's a clear reference to Super Mario Bros. But, yeah, I thought that was a neat feature. Another thing that the volumes do is that at the end of each chapter, like after the chapter ends and between the chapters, or, well, before the little drawing where she's doing a job class change, there's usually a drawing of one of the characters with, like, some stats and a bit of info or bio on that character. And then there's a little text box that says former problem. And they say whatever their former problem was. And then underneath that it says current problem. And they say whatever they're currently dealing with or whatever. And they usually have a little... Wait, let me check. Yeah, there's usually a little comic or panel or whatever that I think has to do with whatever happened in the last chapter. But, yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff to include for the Tankobon releases. And, oh, right, I forgot to mention the genres. It's a mix of comedy, slice of life, and high fantasy. Though, in all honesty, I don't actually remember the differences between high fantasy and other types of fantasy. But I'm just going by what I've read online about it. Now... yeah, I can't really think of anything else to say, but as far as the reason why I waited until Volume 4 to do a thoughts on video, instead of doing one after I finished Volume 1 back in June of 2018, well, if the shirt that I'm wearing isn't anything to... if the shirt I'm wearing didn't give it away, at the end of Volume 4... there is a crossover omake chapter where the princess ends up in Komi's house, and yeah, I just wanted to bring up the fact that this is the volume that the crossover chapter between the two series is in, since both Sleepy Princess and the Demon Castle and Komi Can't Communicate are published in Weekly Shonen Sunday. And all that really... the bonus chapter's pretty short. All that really happens is the princess ends up going through, like, a portal. She ends up in Komi's house. And then she falls asleep. And then she wakes up and gets Komi to help her put her back in the portal. And... yeah, that's it. It's pretty cool. But see, in Volume 5 of Komi-san, that's when the bonus chapter... Wait, let me get to it. That's when the crossover chapter for Sleepy Princess happens. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned this whenever I did the haul video that I got Volume 1 of this in. But in this chapter, Komi just wakes up in the Demon Castle. She walks around, and the other people in the castle, they end up escorting her to the princess's cell, and they both go to sleep, and then Komi wakes up and realizes it was just a dream. So that's cool. And yeah, that's literally the only reason why I waited for Volume 4 Sleepy Princess to come out in English, so I could have an excuse to talk about Komi-san. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, speaking of Komi-san, Volume 1's coming out in June, and it's coming out the same day that Volume 7, I think. If I remember correctly, it's Volume 7, but it's coming out the same day as Volume 7 of this. So I'm looking forward to getting both of those at the same time. And Volume 2 is coming out the same day as the following volume for Sleepy Princess. So I'm guessing it's also going to be bi-monthly unless Viz decides to release multiple volumes within 2 months or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else to say, so I'm going to stop the video. Thanks for watching. See you whenever I do another video. If you want if you want to ask anything about the manga or whatever that I didn't mention, feel free to drop a comment or something. I'll probably put a link to where you can buy it or read it online in the description. Yeah, see you next video.